Hi, I'm Peter J. Ray. Welcome. Today's topic is Crazy Pete Comedy Half Hour, Part 1. So this is a new venture for me into comedy. Actually, I want to say I'm a natural comedian going back to childhood. I was the youngest of 4 children, and as the youngest, you don't get yelled at as much, and right, I enjoyed being able to make people laugh. I think it's it's good. The laughter is the best medicine. That's why I like that movie, Patch Adams, Robin Williams. Well, he plays the funny actually a funny medical student. I believe in the power of comedy. Although comedy should be uplifting. It should be healthy. No one should get hurt by comedy because we need to do the right thing in life. I think actually God's a source of comedy. God Himself is a comedian, you could say. There's the movie The Bucket List makes a reference to this with Jack Nicholson finds out that he's dying of cancer, and he's a rich guy. He owns a hospital. He's having a meeting of the people there, and he said, in the middle of the meeting, he says, "Anybody ever read the Divine Comedy?" And Divine and the guys are, "What are you talking about?" And the Divine Comedy by Dante Alighieri, and they break for a meeting. So that's a reference to this famous book. That's I like that type of humor. What could be what could be referred to as intellectual humor. Although I don't think I'm an intellectual. I like to read books, but books like, my gosh, some of these I don't read Shakespeare because that's way too hard. Or James Joyce, Ulysses, things like that. I was having my taxes done. I was having my taxes done, and I was reporting my income to this gal, and then she said, I said, I actually gave talks on U.S. presidents last year at the senior citizens place, and the gal said, "Oh, so you're a brainiac?" I said, "Well, not really. I like history. When I was growing up, now you've noticed I've changed my voice a few times. This is something that for fun, for variety. Actually, Robin Williams was the incredible. He's really an incredible actor. I'd say my hero. Very, very sad that he died, but I guess he didn't have a strong enough connection to the divine comedian, which I think is true. Because I think we should. God wants us to laugh, but we should not be. Humor should not involve hurting people, and should not involve moral degeneration. It should be wholesome. Okay, this is why one thing I learned early is self-deprecating humor is very effective. You put yourself down, and the only person who might be offended is yourself, and other people kind of like that. Now, the only issue is that if you're prone to depression, it can reinforce that, when you're putting yourself down. And I have had depression, and but now actually I'm fine. I feel real good. My church is incredible. Self-realization fellowship with Paramahansa Yogananda. In fact, one of the affirmations in our church is, "I, a tiny bubble of laughter, have become the sea of mirth itself." The sea of mirth. Kind of like the Divine Comedy mentioned by Jack Nicholson in the Bucket List. Anyway, so I like some of these. Watching the movie, if there's some intellectual reference in The Breakup by Vince Vaughn, or with Vince Vaughn and Jennifer Aniston. She's you could say more cultural, intellectual, and Vince Vaughn plays a guy he's kind of he's a sports fan, kind of a, not a high cultured guy, and they're having an argument one day, and Vince Vaughn says to her, "Oh, what's so great about the 16th chapel? What about the other 15? You never talk about them." Yeah, I love that type of humor because it's he's talking about this. He says the 16th chapel. It's the Sistine Chapel, actually, and so he's got it wrong, but that's funny. And the Sistine Chapel is I've done a little traveling. Yeah, not a lot. I was in Rome, saw the Sistine Chapel. You know, it's on the ceiling. It's kind of hard to look at it. You know, you're looking up at this thing. Beautiful painting, but it's pretty high and kind of hard to see. And I like jokes like that. And then there's the movie Major League about the Cleveland Indians. There's another fine scene where this character, Cleveland Indians player, again, he's having it's kind of similar to the Vince Vaughn and Jennifer Aniston. He comes to the Cleveland Public Library and wants to make up with his girlfriend. You know, they've been estranged, and he says to her, this Jake Taylor character, the catcher on the Indians, he says, "Oh, I'm sorry, I never read Moby Dick. Okay, fine, I'll read it." What? And he's looking around at the books, and the library says, "Oh, okay, fine, I'll read it. Is this the whale section?" I really thought that was funny. I like, the Jewish people, I think, are actually very funny people, and it's, they've been persecuted through the centuries, and they developed comedy as a way of coping with the hardships they went through. And you have all these amazing comedians like Groucho Marx, and over the years, Jerry Seinfeld, and many, can't think of many offhand under the stress of this video. But it's funny, when I was in high school, I was pretty depressed and shy, and we had a project one day. We were paired up with a classmate, and we had to ask each other questions. And one of the questions, this girl, I was really shy. She asked me, both asked me, if you were on a desert island, who would you like to be with? If you could pick one person from history, actually, I think anybody alive. And so I said, Karl Marx. And the girl said, "Huh? Karl Marx?" I don't even know if she knew who he was, but she probably never heard of him. And immediately I knew I said the wrong thing. So I thought I was able to recover, and I said, "Oh no, I meant Groucho Marx," which that's whom I meant. Groucho Marx, the comedian, because Karl Marx didn't have much of a sense of humor, father of communism. And so you'll have to excuse me. I tend to go off on a tangent, which maybe is okay. So I could say I'm kind of an algebraic guy. I think tangents are an algebra concept from mathematics. Get off the topic. My father used to say, "Pete, you need to focus," which is true. We can't just be joking around all the time. I was out for, my family and I were out for having ice cream at a local establishment here in the Cleveland area. And we're with this gal, family friend, funny lady. She's talking, telling funny stories, on and on and on. And then near the end, we're running out. It's time to go, and she was treating us. So she said, "Oh, I got to focus." She had to concentrate on getting her money out and figuring out how to pay with cash or a debit card, credit card, and communicate with the person, the cashier, I presume, I think, at this place. So she had to make that transition from comedy to being serious, which is we need to do. Like you're driving a car, you can't be joking, right? You got to focus on that. And so, anyway, I think life is interesting. A lot of funny things happen in life, and I was in the Philippines for 40 years. Not 40 years, huh? What's wrong with me? 20 years. 20 years, and I consider myself 40% Filipino, and Filipinos are funny people. They're really. I can talk a little Tagalog to my Filipino friends. Ang mga talagang ganon. Mabuhay ang Pilipinas. Masamang Tagalog ko. And I don't want to bore my non-Tagalog speaking audience. I was played a lot of basketball in the Philippines. One day we were playing, and I just like to play. I'm not interested in the whole competitive aspect, of winning the game. There's a joy in physical play and movement. So we're playing. I don't care about the score. Finally, the game ends. It's like, what happened? And I don't know what's going on. We just stopped playing for some reason. They said, "Oh, the game's over." And I go, "Well, why? What happened?" They go, "Oh, you guys won the game." And I go, "Oh, really?" And they go, "Yeah, you hit the game-winning shot." I hit the game-winning shot, but I didn't know it. So I thought that was kind of funny. Growing up, my father was a good guy. He was a lawyer, so he had to be pretty serious there. And his humor was kind of basic or old-fashioned and not politically correct, particularly. One of the things he used to, when we were a little, when you're a boy, you like to bond with your father, and this big guy. I remember being, as a boy, sometimes being out, and he would whisper to me, "Hey, Pete, look at that." And he seemed to take delight in pointing out, women who are overweight. This was really, you could say, sexist, not politically correct, but anyway, I don't think these women were offended. They didn't hear it, and and I was sharing like this secret with my father, or sort of remarking on this woman who's overweight, which probably we shouldn't have done. And I used to make a joke with him. I tried to make him laugh. Naturally, I'm at home with him, family life, that sort of thing. And so I said, "Yeah, Dad, these people who are overweight, they ought to wear a sign in the back, a sign around their back that said wide load sign." And he thought that was funny. You see these trucks that says wide load. I guess you're supposed to be careful when you're trying to pass them, maybe. So he thought that was funny, that thing that I was doing. So anyway, now I have some my index cards here. I hope you don't mind, because I find them very, very helpful. Index cards, they're they're a certain size. They're nice. They're nice size, not too big, not too small. You can get some information, and you can organize yourself. I only have 3 cards here, but a lot of times I have more. You can organize yourself. So I wrote down some thoughts I had before we get started in this voyage into comedy. My first YouTube video. In the old days, you had to go to if you want to get into comedy, you had to go to a comedy club, open mic club. Now you stay at home and make a YouTube video, and YouTube is amazing. Make a YouTube video and then put it on. I joined all these comedy groups. You put them on the groups, see if people like it. Right? So anyway, that's something fun to do. So anyway, I mentioned earlier the Jewish people and their sense of humor. Oh, so many. I think Jerry Lewis was. I read a whole book on famous Jewish comedians. There are many, and I'm can't think of many of them at the moment. Oh, I had a funny thing happen to me the other day. Life is funny. Things happen. I was doing the laundry here. I'm in an apartment building, and now I'm kind of a simple guy, and I'm kind of cheap, so I take my. I don't dry my laundry. I bring it back and hang it in the closet and let it dry here. Save money, and it doesn't shrink. So anyway, I had to go upstairs. The washing machine on my floor here was being occupied. Excuse me. I went upstairs and getting my laundry and going back to my apartment, and I was carrying it in my arms. And there was an elderly couple on the elevator when I got on, and this older lady, she says, "Oh my, that's a large load of laundry." I go, "Oh yeah," and I felt a little bit embarrassed because I don't have a basket. That's kind of the thing that you should have, proper. If you want to be prim and proper. And so, I go, "Oh yeah, sorry, I don't have a basket." And I said, "Anyway, my arms work." And after that, it was kind of quiet. In fact, for this video right now, I'm waiting for. I used to joke around with friends about stuff like this, situations like this, trying to be funny. And there would be crickets chirping because no one's laughing. No one's laughing. And, or, in the old days, if you're on stage, they'd stick out this hook, and they'd pull you, grab you by the neck, pull you off stage if you're, you're no good. Or the audience might even be throwing stuff at you, throwing tomatoes, rotten tomatoes. Oh, now I will do an imitation of a monkey. Okay. That's my monkey imitation. It's kind of funny how it starts, sort of slow. Anyway, at least that's my monkey imitation. And I can do it again sometime, but maybe once is enough. I have a sparrow imitation too. Usually, my knees aren't very good now. I'm 58. I'm an old, not that old, but I used to do a really good sparrow imitation. Where I get down on my haunches, kind of like a Filipino driver waiting for his boss to finish wherever he had taken them. Get down on my haunches. You see these sparrows out here in Cleveland. they're out hopping around looking for something to eat, but they're a small bird, so they'll do my sparrow imitation. I just had to do it sitting right here, so I have my wings up here. Okay, so my sparrow imitation, like. So these sparrows, they're small birds, so they have to be careful. The larger birds can get them. Unlike crows, who are really, you see these crows, caw, caw. That's my crow imitation. Caw, caw. These crows, because they're so big, they're the biggest bird. So basically, they come around there and they ain't afraid of nothing. Because except for human beings or dogs and cats. So they'll fly away when you. I try to make friends with crows. You see, sometimes you'll see 2 or 3 or 4 up in the trees or in a telephone line or something, and I'll go caw caw, and they'll look at you like, "What are you doing?" So but it's fun to try to make friends with animals. Now I'll give you a song. I think some of these comedians, they like to sing. It's something fun to do. Now this is a song that was the 1932 Franklin D. Roosevelt campaign song. He was a Democratic nominee for president. He was elected in 1932, re-elected 3 times. And I heard this song. My father and I were entering Gate A of Cleveland Municipal Stadium, maybe around 1973, 74, for a Cleveland Indians baseball game, and they were playing this song. Happy days are here again, the skies above are clear again, let us sing a song of cheer again. Happy days are here again, your cares and troubles are gone, there'll be no more from now on. Happy days are here again, the skies above are clear again, let us sing a song of cheer again. Happy days are here again. I like that song. It's nostalgic. When I was 13 and became a Cleveland sports fan. Now this shirt, I was looking for shirts that I thought would be funny. I think this fish, it looks like a turbot, this fish here. We used to go to the Bahamas, and my sister still goes. They have these funny fish. This is actually a shirt from Tahiti, believe it or not, in the South Pacific. I was out wearing it, and this lady approached me and said, "Oh, that's a nice shirt." And she looked at me, "Oh, from Tahiti. I've been to Tahiti. Have you been to Tahiti?" No, I haven't been to Tahiti. I just got the shirt at a thrift store. Well, my parents have been there, and I read Mutiny on the Bounty, which takes place partly there. Anyway, I like this shirt because there's a lot of funny animals. I like this fish on the shirt. Oh, when I was a kid back in the 70s, I thought that All in the Family was a funny program. I had this character, Archie Bunker. Remember him? Well, if you've seen the show, he's this guy. He's kind of a conservative old guy, and he's actually a racist and so forth, and not politically correct at all. But he gets into arguments. There was a funny scene where somebody was insulting him, and he was trying to say, "I resent that remark," and he said, "I resemble that remark." So that was really good. If you watch that show, and Archie and Meathead character, who actually he became a famous, that guy, can't think of his name, he became a famous movie director. They get stuck walking in through the doorway. I took a class, I'm actually a history teacher. Yeah, I was supposed to be a doctor growing up. My parents, there's no way I could have been a doctor, because you have to be too serious. You can be kind of funny as a history teacher, but although a lot of history teachers aren't particularly funny, but that has nothing to do with history. I think history itself is full of humor, funny stuff. Also tragedy, as well. But anyway, I was taking a class at Cleveland State University, and the professor, it was about ancient history. He was talking about the ancient Greeks, who were really something. They were high achievers, or Socrates, Plato, Aristotle. Whenever I meet sometimes I have some Greek American friends, I'll say Plato, Socrates, and Aristotle, to try to please them, their ethnic background. Anyway, this professor, he said, "The ancient Greeks were on top of the world, on top of the world." And then he looked around the class, he paused, and he said, "Anybody? And then he was referring to a song by Karen Carpenter, and, that was called "On Top of the World," and he was hoping people would be familiar with it. And so he goes from the ancient Greeks, and he starts talking about Karen Carpenter. He goes, well, and she died of anorexia, very tragic. He says, well, Karen Carpenter, she really, the public attention was focused on anorexia for the first time. People learned about this tragic condition that a lot of women have developed, where they can even die of malnutrition. So he goes from, and then he goes back and he shakes his head a little bit, and he goes, the ancient Greeks were on top of the world. So he goes back to the ancient Greeks. So he was jumping around, which is fine. Makes it a little more interesting. I thought he did a good job. Now, the other day, I was watching the movie Man on the Moon. It's about Andy Kaufman, starring Jim Carrey, and he was a funny guy. He was funny, and I didn't like everything about it. He was kind of crazy, and I'm of course that's not Crazy Pete, but anyway, he tended to get in conflict. And I did a little Wikipedia search. Wikipedia is amazing, and I looked up, and they said that his legacy, Andy Kaufman's legacy, he's been gone. He died fairly young, got sick, and his legacy is, they said, that to be yourself. He was himself, so that's what I'll try to be here in this video, and like I say, keeping it real. Try not. Some people try too hard, because it's I saw this with Robin Williams. He was so talented. Oh my gosh! But then became a little bit frantic later on. There was one video. This video that came out, or movie, where it's about his life and death. He's using the F word a lot. Oh no, you can't be doing that. But he did, and it's easy to get off on the wrong track in life. With the temptations of wealth and fame. So, if this video is unsuccessful, maybe I'll be spared that. And anyway, I'm familiar with a lack of success. I wanted to be a great athlete growing up. I wanted to be a great baseball player, and I felt bad about that. I was telling my parents, I'm a wimp. And my father said, Pedro, you're not a wimp, you're an intellectual. And of course, I really wasn't an intellectual. Another funny story, I was in Guam, which is the main island in Micronesia, in the Pacific Ocean, in sort of the western Pacific, north of the equator, so it's not the South Pacific. And anyway, I arrived there, I spent a year, and I got a job, I worked there, and shortly after I arrived, there was a thing in the newspaper that said, do you love baseball? And I said, yes, I love baseball. And so there was, believe it or not, there were tryouts for the Guam Olympic baseball team, and I went. Can't believe I was 36 years old and not a good player. And I went to the tryout, and I felt pretty good about it. I thought I was on the pitching. I could hit, although I didn't have much power. And it turns out, I got cut in the first cut. And I was waiting in line. I heard the guy in front of me. He was a Filipino, I think a Filipino-American, and we became friends. And so the coach was telling him why he got cut. He says, you have a strong arm, you have a good bat, you got power, you have speed, everything was good. And he said, there's only one problem. You're 27 years old. And apparently they thought that was too old, that he would not develop. And here I was 36. So he comes to me, he said, well, Pete, you got a weak arm, your glove is also not great. You have very little speed. You made some power, so you could hit some contact, but very little power. So here I was 36 with poor skills. I knew I was kind of fun. But anyway, I brag about it. I tried out for the Guam Olympic baseball team. There's some funny stuff in baseball. I've been doing videos on Cleveland baseball teams. We did 1973 to 2018 or 2017. Now we went back to 1869. Yesterday we did 1906. And I'm into history and baseball. There was a story of Dizzy Dean, the famous St. Louis Cardinals pitcher, who became an announcer. And then in a game, he said he referred to a player who's sliding into third base. He said he slud into third. Past tense of slide. Dizzy Dean, a funny story. And then there was another funny story about him. This is going way back to the 1930s. Dizzy Dean, and so he was, he had been hit by a pitch, I think, maybe, and so people were worried about how Dizzy Dean's doing, and so there was an X-ray. There was a headline in the newspaper said, Dean's Dizzy Dean's head was X-rayed. The X-rays revealed nothing. So he was, in other words, there was, he was okay medically, but it implies that there was nothing, not too smart. Now actually, there's funny jokes. One of the oldest jokes that's simple and I think it goes back to the early part of the 20th century, or who knows how much farther back. And I told this story to. I was with some friends of mine at the senior citizens place, and it's a very simple story. Horse walks into a bar. Bartender says, "Why the long face?" Very short, simple, funny. And I was telling this to my friends, and they said, "Oh my gosh, our friends, their father used to say this joke many years ago, and they hadn't heard it." And then his wife, who's elderly, she was saying, "Oh yeah, he was always telling that joke, and I had to explain it how horses have a long face because they have this snout." So that's a nice old joke from years ago. Let's see. Another joke here. I actually got a book from my brother for Christmas about jokes. And I had all these. I put them on index cards, and I was writing them down, sending them to people in the mail. And this one joke is, the story, every country is trying to defend itself and develop military capabilities to deal with potential threats. And they said Ireland has done so, developed this military technology, and so it's called the Spud missile. The Spud missile. That's a joke because Spud is like a potato. The Spud missile. I told that to my father. He thought it was true. He shook his head like, "Oh boy, they're wasting money." "No, Dad, it's a joke." They say that when you die, your hair and nails. Fingernails and your hair continue to grow for 2 weeks. However, phone calls taper off. That's another one. And another story about there's a guy, he said that his wife was a pagan. Yeah. And the guy, what are you talking about? Yeah, he said, every meal was a burnt offering. That's another one. And now I was, if you've ever heard, there's a guy named Norman Vincent Peale. He was a Christian minister, a very good man, did a lot of good with his life. He wrote a lot of books, and his most famous book was The Power of Positive Thinking. Yeah, and I became aware of that book. I knew it was out there. It was published. You can see it in the bookstores. And I thought, well, maybe I should buy a copy of The Power of Positive Thinking. And I thought, no, that's a dumb idea. I'm not going to do that. That's a terrible... what's the point? Actually, no, and the truth is I did read that book. I recommend it. It's a good book. He had a good influence. I did my research, my historical research. There was a player for the Cleveland baseball team. I think this is the first decade of the 20th century. I'm not sure. Before they were named the Indians. But that franchise, the Cleveland Indians franchise, there was a guy he was a deaf guy. And back then it was politically incorrect. They used to call deaf players dummy, and that's just the nickname that they got. And so there was a story that years later, he was an older guy, and it came out in the news that he had died. And then it wasn't true. And the headline was "Dummy Taylor Denies Being Dead," or I think it was it Mark Twain who said that the rumors about his death were wildly exaggerated. Well, this happens. Now, like I mentioned earlier, I've had depression, and this depression has funny things to it. Actually, it's also depressing. Depression is depressing, but anyway, when I was depressed, I couldn't think of things to do. You actually can become mentally retarded. I want to be respectful to those who have this. I don't know what the correct term is for people who are mentally retarded. People, whose intelligence is limited. But anyway, when you're depressed, in my experiences, I've learned that I could not think very well, and so I worked a job one time. I was working at a battery factory. Oh, it was a tough job, and every day I got yelled at by different people. And I brought my lunch. I used to bring, a peanut butter sandwich with margarine on whole wheat bread, and maybe a bag of Fritos and a banana. So it was lunchtime one day, and I went to get my lunch. And I was depressed, and I went to the lunchroom and got my lunch out, and I took out my sandwich. And it turned out the sandwich was white bread with bologna. And I thought, that's funny. I don't remember making myself a bologna sandwich with white bread. And so I just shrugged my shoulders, and I took a bite out of the sandwich. And then it hit me. This is not my lunch. I had picked up the wrong lunch. The guys used to put their, the brown paper lunches on top of this coat rack. And this is not my lunch. So I put the sandwich back in the bag, and I put this in the plastic bag, put it back in the paper bag, took it back, got my lunch, came back to the lunchroom, and had my lunch. And the next thing you know, these guys were all fat. They were tough guys, factory workers. And this guy comes out, and he down the table from me, and he takes out his sandwich, and he says, "Hey, somebody's taking a bite out of my sandwich." So I was just kind of trying not to make eye contact with him because I didn't want to get in trouble because I was the one who had done it. It appears we're out of time. Thank you so much for watching. God bless all my friends in the Philippines, especially the students at Restless Educational Center. God bless the Philippines, America, and the whole world. Take care, and I'll see you next time.